If you're an avid online shopper, you may have come across an advert purporting to be an offer from Take-A-Lot Online, selling items such as Samsung TVs and Smack kettles for just 60 Rand. It's now been exposed that these Facebook scam ads, which spread across other social media platforms, are fake and have been used for clickbait. So does this amount to false advertising? What kind of recourse would a retailer have if a third party uses their name to falsely advertise their products? Gail Schimmel is the CEO of the Advertising Regulatory Board and joins us now to discuss this. Gail, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time and your patience as well. Now, on the surface, this seems to be false advertising. What kind of recourse would someone like Take-A-Lot, for example, have?
So I think the first thing that we have to talk about is exactly what you said. On the surface, it appears to be false advertising. But if you dig a little bit deeper, it's not actually advertising at all, because advertising is when a retailer tries to push its product or push its service and get people to buy the product or service. What's happening here is actually a scam. So this is a scam that is pretending to be advertising in order to get the advertiser in. And unfortunately, that means there's very little recourse, because you can't come to the ARB because we deal with advertising. We would deal with the problem by going back to the advertiser and asking them to take it down. You could try and go and lay a charge of fraud if you were the advertiser like Take-A-Lot, whose name has been taken advantage of. You could try some legal routes, but the problem with these type of scams is they come up, you'll close one down and another one will come up. So I'm quite sure Take-A-Lot has reported it to Facebook, and I would imagine that Facebook probably has acted on it and has taken it down, but it will come back in another form and another way. So what we really have to look at is how can consumers protect themselves against that.
Yeah, and how can you identify something like that? I was just looking at the visuals now as you were talking, Gail. We were playing them for viewers of some of those adverts that are promising those goodies for 60 Rand. How are you able to distinguish? You said on the surface it appears as advertising, but when you go further down, you realize it is not. I mean, consumers, we all want a good bargain. How can you really, is it easy to see whether something is an advertisement or not? Are there any tips there you've got?
I've got a few tips. The first tip and the biggest tip, and we keep repeating this to consumers, there is no such a thing as a free lunch. If a deal looks too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. If you are told you've run a competition that you haven't entered, you probably haven't run that competition. So first of all, you've got to be aware of that. You've got to be aware that you're not going to get a Smeg kettle for 60 Rand. That's the first stop. The second stop with that particular advertising that you were showing on the screen, Take-A-Lot is an online retailer. And they were showing pictures of displays where it said Take-A-Lot as if it was in a shop, exactly there, what you see on the screen now. That's not how Take-A-Lot advertises. Take-A-Lot doesn't have a shop that you can go to and buy a kettle. So that should be setting alarm bells off in the consumer's mind. How is an online advertiser now advertising in a shop? The next thing is, if you've seen that ad and you want to take advantage of it, and here in this example that's on the screen now, look very carefully, first of all, at who is posting it. Is it the genuine Take-A-Lot brand that's posting it, or is there something strange about it? Take-A-Lot doesn't use the name Take-A-Lot online, as far as I know. What you can do if you want to be careful, don't go through the link you're seeing. Go to the actual website of the advertiser that you think it is. So in this case, you would go to the Take-A-Lot website and see if that special is advertised there, because then you know you're safe. Also, if you follow a link, look very carefully at exactly what the link that comes up now as you've clicked. Is it saying takealot.com or is it saying Take-A-Lot 000? And then you know you've done something wrong, immediately close it down. And then the last very important thing for consumers is when you do follow one of these links by mistake, don't fill in any details. An online advertiser is not going to ask you for your password up front. They're not going to ask you for your banking details up front. They might do it at the end of a transaction, and you could get caught like that if you're on a dodgy website. So you've got to be very aware of exactly where you are, but try not to fill in information unless you are absolutely sure that you're in the right place.
Oh, those 3 points are so key and sound so simple, but so many of us get caught. Gail, have you had similar kind of queries before? I mean, how common is this? I mean, we know about the normal scam, but where somebody purports or pretends to be advertising, but meanwhile they are not really. They're trying to entice somebody illicit to get ensnared by their scam. Have you had some of these before?
We see it occasionally. It doesn't seem to be something that's a particular problem at the moment. And again, because it's not actually something we can deal with, because it's not actually advertising, it's not something we push that we can deal with. It's not something that we'd make decisions about. We'd have to go back to the consumer and explain that we can't really help them, which is unfortunate. And we would obviously try and give these hints on how to protect themselves in future. But it's not, I'm not seeing a particular rise in figures of this. These scams pop up and then they die down, and we see different ones. There's one about white pages that, in fact, maybe I can take this opportunity to warn consumers. If you get an email telling you you're going to be listed in the white pages and you don't have to pay anything, don't respond, because you're going to end up with them trying to get a lot of money out of you, because there's small print at the bottom saying that you will pay. You don't have to pay if you have been caught. You don't have to pay. It's a scam. But that's the one that we're really, really struggling with at the moment.
White pages, wow. People try all sorts of new things. Thank you very much for alerting our viewers about that particular scam. That's CEO of the Advertising Regulatory Board, Gail Schimmel. Still